Thank you. This is my classroom earlier this year, and I take great pride in looking at this picture because I know how hard it was for me to get a class that looked like this. 3 years ago when I started teaching, it was kind of a disaster. I remember quietly crying in the front of my room after the projector had been unplugged for the 3rd time in a class. And students muttered under their breath during my class, "I hate her." And in those moments, I felt uniquely and distinctly alone. But I wasn't. And in fact, I had a principal who was in my room for an hour each week, giving me feedback, coaching me. We made plans about students. We made plans about groups of students. We made plans about entire classes. But I couldn't quite get it right. And it wasn't until she said, "Your classroom needs to look like Dan's," that I understood what she meant. Dan was a veteran teacher. He'd been teaching for 11 years, and he was in my grade level. He taught 15 feet down the hall, and I hadn't been to his class. I was so busy, so isolated in my own failure that I wasn't able to step outside of my own classroom and to get into someone else's. So I walked down the hallway and I went to Dan's class. And what I saw was students standing on either side of the classroom. And they were having a debate over whether or not a democracy or a dictatorship was the best way to run a society. Now, I had an obvious answer to that question, but that's beside the point. And what I noticed is that the students were prepared, they were articulate, they were engaged, and they were my students. My students who I couldn't get to sit silently and take notes. And I realized that Dan had something that I needed to have. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the value of peer observation as an opportunity for professional development for novice teachers. But not only that, it's also a pathway to leadership for our most veteran and expert teachers to have the opportunity to stay in the classroom and impact change on their schools. So what's the challenge that we're faced with right now? I want to place us a little bit. Richard Ingersoll does a lot of research regarding teacher retention and new teachers, and he's done a lot of studies, and one of them suggests that by 2007 and 2008, that's the most recent data that was available, that the largest group of teachers had exactly 1 year of experience. That's in contrast with 1978, when the largest single group of teachers had 15 years of experience. So what we know right now is the market of education is saturated with novice teachers, and that they need support, because my experience is not unique. Time and time again, we hear the tribulations of teachers in their first years, that they thought they were ready, and they just weren't. And what happens when teachers aren't ready to teach is that they leave. We know that 1/3 of teachers who enter the profession right now will not be teaching in 3 years. In 5 years, that number is 50%. But teachers don't just leave because they're not achieving in the classroom, because of experiences like mine. We also know that teachers are leaving because they're excellent leaders, and they have the opportunity to impart greater change outside of the classroom. This is Jill Pache, and she was the 6th grade teacher, math teacher at Match Middle School. She was an excellent teacher. Kids were engaged in her class. They learned from her, and they loved math. But Jill isn't teaching math anymore at our school, because she sought leadership that wasn't available within the classroom. And she wanted to have a bigger impact, and she didn't think she could do that in the school. The great thing is that we still have Jill working at Match Middle School. She's working in an administrative position, and she's having a great impact on kids. But I still find it sad that 6th graders right now don't get to take her class. This is also a problem that we can't afford not to fix. Nationally, we spend $7 billion on teacher recruitment and retention strategies. That's money that could be going towards build, so that more students could get entrepreneurial education, or could be going to build an engineering program in every single classroom across the country, not just in Boston. And we need to think of a way to figure out how to use that money better. So where do we want to be? Those are the challenges. Where do we want to be? Obviously, we want to be in a place where teachers are prepared and students learn. We want to move the needle on the achievement gap so that all students have access to the education that they deserve, not only in Boston, but across the country. We want to be in a place where teachers are growing within their classrooms, and they continue to grow and develop as they build their craft. One study by Jane Hanaway suggests that teachers' growth stops after 4 years in the classroom and just plateaus. We obviously, as teachers and administrators in this room, know that that is not true. So how could the studies say that? We need to make sure that teachers are continuing to grow in their classrooms. And finally, and I think most importantly, we need the opportunity for teacher leadership from within the classroom. Jillian Pache shouldn't have had to leave teaching in order to feel that she could impact change on a school level. And my principal, Megan Reed, said, "Emma, I want to make sure you can stay in the classroom longer than I was able to," because she also left the classroom early so that she could have a bigger change and impact on students. And that's sad, because the touch that a teacher has with children is undeniable. So what's the vision? What's the solution? I don't know. But I do know that I have part of the solution. I by no means am saying right now that this vision is the end-all, be-all of professional development and we're going to fix all of these problems. But what I am saying is that it was effective for me. And when I talk to novice teachers, they get excited about the idea. And when I talk to veteran teachers, they get excited about the idea. So I think we've got something going. So let's talk a little bit what it looks like. The good thing about it is that it's simple. You walk into someone's classroom, an expert teacher, a veteran teacher, an experienced and effective teacher, and you learn something new. The awesome thing about teaching is that teachers do a million different things in a 60-minute period to engage their classes. So I needed to look in Dan's class for specifically how to manage my students. That was my struggle. So I went in with the lens of how do I manage this classroom? That could easily be replaced with how do you use engineering in a classroom? How do you use technology in a classroom? How do you use engagement strategies in a classroom? How do you use group work? How do you use individual work? How do you use assessment? How do you use project-based learning? There are a million different things that veteran teachers bring to the classroom that all novice teachers can learn from. And not even just novices. As a third-year teacher, I know that I still have so much more to gain from observing and engaging in looking at what excellent teaching looks like. If I left you with a few things, it would be these. We have some golden rules, and what would a teacher be without a little rules? The first thing is to make observation purposeful. I walked into Dan's class because I knew that I had a management problem, and he didn't. So I knew that I had something to gain from that. Again, that can easily be replaced by 1,000 different things that veteran and effective teachers do. But there has to be a purpose to observation. Because when you do walk into a classroom of a veteran teacher, you literally are bombarded by all the amazing things that they do, and it can be overwhelming. Focus observation is key. And the second thing is make the time. And I don't mean on your lunch break, scarf a sandwich and watch a class. I mean really make the time for teachers to observe each other and to provide one another feedback. Honestly, I'm not sure that I would be teaching today if it hadn't been for the support of Dan and my school. I definitely would not be on this stage. And so for all of the teachers who are struggling and floundering in their first years of teaching, and for all of the teachers who excel and leave the classroom early because they don't have the leadership ladder that they deserve, we need to open the classroom door, and we need to keep teachers teaching. Thank you.